I don't play, for records. I play just for my own story, and obviously in the same time it means a lot to me, but tomorrow is another day, another opponent, a different opponent. For me, the highest priority is trying to recover as much as I can physically, and then we'll see how it goes. And emotionally, it takes a lot, playing here at home, but in the same time I definitely try to do my best, and then we'll see how it goes. In any way, it is a win-win situation for me in any case, so it was a good day today.
For years, Novak Djokovic treated Masters 1000 tournaments like his own private empire, casually collecting victories while nervous opponents looked completely outmatched every single week. Then, Jannik Sinner appeared, looking like a quiet teenager still mistaken for a student, and suddenly, the entire ATP Tour began falling into chaos. But now, the terrifying question nobody can comfortably answer is this: is Sinner merely enjoying an incredible run of form? Or are we witnessing the rise of tennis's next untouchable dynasty?
For me, when people are saying that I'm disrespectful to the sport, I think someone like that has tried to cheat the process and actually not done it completely on their own merit is the disrespectful one, in my opinion. I mean, I have to be outspoken about it because I don't think there's enough people that are speaking about it. People are trying to sweep it under the rug, and there's not fair treatment for every single player. And I just think that it's been handled horrifically in our sport, and two world number ones both getting done for doping is disgusting for our sport. It's a horrible look. And yeah, the tennis integrity right now, and everyone knows it, but no one wants to speak.
If you're enjoying this, please subscribe to the channel because it supports us far more than you probably realize. The final thing tennis expected this season was for the sport's greatest nightmare to appear disguised as a quiet, polite Italian who still looks like someone mistaken for a teenager during airport security checks. Yet somehow, whenever Jannik Sinner walked onto a Masters 1000 court, another historic record immediately started trembling in fear. Before the tennis world could fully respond, he was slicing through history with the ruthless efficiency of someone speed-running a video game that absolutely nobody else can understand.
You feel like Novak is coming for 25. I feel like Carlos has had enough of this Jannik Sinner nonsense. This is my narrative. This could be just in my head. He's a very gregarious young fella. He smiles, he glows. The people love him, right? But all this, I love him. I stop doing things when he's playing tennis, right?
Sure.
But all this love that Jannik Sinner is getting, I can tell is just pissing Carlos off. And
sure.
Carlos beat him 3 times last year. Every time they met,
For years, the tennis world treated Masters 1000 dominance as sacred ground reserved for the sport's final bosses. This was Novak Djokovic territory. This was Rafael Nadal territory. This was the part of tennis history guarded by statistics so extreme they almost felt fictional.
Can Daniil Medvedev do it in the semifinals?
I'm certainly not going to go out of my way and call an upset, but I think what we've seen from him in the last few matches, I think he's got some elements that can trouble Sinner. He's been serving smartly, if he's able to hit his pockets and find the right amount of aggression. I think dragging out the points against Jannik Sinner, using as much movement as he can, it's not easy to stay in the points. I think those longer rallies may be to his advantage. And also when he can, stepping up, taking those forehands up the line, the backhands up the line, he did that with great effect.
Then Jannik Sinner came and began treating those records like parking cones. What makes this tale even more insane is that nothing about it felt loud at first. There was no chest beating, no dramatic statements, and no "I am future" speech.
I mean, this could have been the last match ever I played here, so I don't know. That's why it was even a bit more emotional in the end. But if this was the farewell match of the Roland Garros for me in my career, it was a wonderful one in terms of the atmosphere and what I got from the crowd.
Jannik Sinner moved through tournaments like a silent assassin, carrying his racket instead of a weapon. One moment, he was quietly adjusting to Paris's new conditions, and the next moment, commentators realized he had reached the quarterfinals of the Rolex Paris Masters for the first time in his career ever before at all. His timing looked almost unfair. His ground strokes came off the racket like they had GPS installed. Opponents were not simply losing matches. They were slowly losing hope. Then came the indoor hardcourt run, and this is where the tennis world started sweating nervously. 24 consecutive indoor wins. 24. At that point, players walking into matches against Sinner looked like contestants on a cooking show who already knew Gordon Ramsay hated their risotto. Every tournament became another episode of how exactly is anyone supposed to stop this guy? The terrifying thing about Sinner's game is that it does not feel emotional.
I don't want to respond on what he said. Everyone is free to say everything, so I'm it's okay, and and if that is the case, I'm let's see. No, it's gonna be different for sure, but no, it's I don't know what to say.
Novak Djokovic built his legacy with elastic defense, impossible retrieving, and psychological warfare that made opponents question their existence. Rafael Nadal played like a gladiator possessed by mountain spirits and pure caffeine energy. Roger Federer floated across the court like tennis poetry, wearing expensive shoes gliding effortlessly. Jannik Sinner, meanwhile, plays like an advanced AI program from the future itself now version. There is something cold and precise in the way he dismantles opponents, at times precise, at times punishing, exactly as commentators described it, but somehow that still felt like an understatement. Then Indian Wells happened, and that tournament changed everything. The collection of North American hardcourt titles became complete. He had them all. Indian Wells champion, Miami champion, Sunshine Double completed, and not just completed. He became the first man in history to win the Sunshine Double without losing a single set.
Jannik Sinner now holds one of the more impressive records our sport of tennis has ever seen. A record that Novak Djokovic has held for 15 years. 32 consecutive Masters 1000 wins. 32, eclipsing Novak Djokovic's previously held record of 31, eclipsing Roger Federer's 30 consecutive Masters 1000 wins, and he's only gonna obliterate this record. No one's beating him.
That statistic alone sounds fake enough to be fact-checked by furious tennis fans on social media at 3 in the morning. Not dropping a set across Indian Wells and Miami feels absurd. Those tournaments are packed with elite players, awkward conditions, tired bodies, and enough chaos to ruin even the best campaigns. Yet Sinner cruised through both events untouched. It felt like watching someone complete a difficult video game on maximum difficulty while barely blinking. The ATP Tour looked drained trying to explain it. Analysts kept hunting for weaknesses. Maybe his clay movement could slow him down slightly. Maybe the schedule would eventually catch him. Maybe Novak Djokovic would remind everyone who still owns the throne. Instead, the wins kept piling up. Monte Carlo arrived, and Sinner kept marching forward like a man refusing to acknowledge the existence of losing. At one point, commentators joked that he was not used to playing 3 sets anymore because everyone kept getting destroyed in straight sets.
Jannik is in the semi-final by beating Andrei Rublev in Rome, and with that win he overtakes Novak Djokovic in his record for most consecutive wins in a Masters. Novak Djokovic was the previous record holder at 31 wins, and Jannik Sinner officially now has 32. But this match wasn't all sunshine and flowers by Jannik. At some point during the match he looked visibly, tired, in pain. Something was going on, so I'm gonna keep an eye out for the press conference and hope he's gonna give us some details about how he feels. Because maybe truly the tiredness, the fatigue is getting to him, because he has played a lot of tennis, obviously.
Picture dominance so strong that extra time on court feels strange indeed. Unusual. This is not typical tennis behavior. That is villainous behavior. Next arrived another milestone. 20th consecutive Masters 1000 victory secured. Then first Monte Carlo final appearance. Then another trophy. Then Madrid next. More wins followed. More records followed. Amid all this chaos, the ATP Tour collectively recognized something deeply uncomfortable was becoming apparent. Sinner was no longer pursuing the Big Three legacy. He was actively moving into their statistical neighborhood. This is where Novak Djokovic enters the narrative in an entirely different way. For more than a decade, Djokovic monuments virtually untouchable. 30 straight Masters. 1,000 wins stood as one achievement that felt almost untouchable at times. Sinner then arrived and began climbing toward it. Tension increased with each tournament event. 26 consecutive victories. 29 consecutive victories. Every match suddenly bore historical pressure. Commentators started mentioning Djokovic's record repeatedly, almost nervously, as though saying it too often might curse the sport itself somehow again. Fans began counting. Social media erupted after each victory.
And I spoke to Mario about this before we recorded this, and I also checked out one Italian tennis journalist response. But actually, I saw the Italian journalist response, and I know kind of where he's at in terms of the fact that he's an Italian, he's a tennis journalist. I think he favors Italian tennis players. He's written a book about one Italian tennis player. When there's anything about Jannik Sinner, you can guess which side of the...
Memes became totally unavoidable. Fans joked that Sinner had become a complete cheat code. Others suggested the ATP should investigate whether the Italian was secretly training tennis in a hidden laboratory beneath the Alps. And then it occurred. 30 straight Masters 1000 wins. Jannik Sinner officially overtook Novak Djokovic's streak and established a new benchmark in men's tennis history. Just consider how insane that statement would have sounded a few years ago, really. Novak Djokovic, the machine built specifically to ruin everybody's happiness on tennis courts around the world, had his Masters 1000 streak record broken by a player who still appears as someone who could be mistaken for a university student carrying textbooks to class. The emotional significance of that moment felt different because Djokovic understands precisely what these records mean. Casual viewers see numbers. Elite champions see suffering. They witness the constant travel, the fatigue, the pressure, the injuries, the nights where one bad set could ruin months of work. Djokovic understands better than anyone how impossible consistency at the Masters level truly is. That is why reactions around this record carried so much emotion deeply. Because deep down, Djokovic was not merely watching another player win matches. He was witnessing the arrival of the next era in real time.
They've denied their positions, they've denied rankings, they've denied money. Why is Sinner still able to continue when others are not?
Well, if he in fact only has this because of receiving a massage, then I do think that he should be allowed to play.
My son is a huge fan of his. Yesterday he could have seen Jannik.
When that realization strikes deeply after years spent ruling the sport like an emperor who refuses to surrender his throne again. There is something poetic in Sinner breaking this specific record too. Djokovic built greatness by turning defense into punishment itself. Sinner is redefining dominance with relentless aggression and precision now. The evolution seems almost symbolic. One era slowly passes the torch to another, though nobody actually wanted to hand anything over willingly. Carlos Alcaraz possesses brilliance, no one disputes. On pure explosiveness, he could be the most collecting taxes. The frightening part is that he still looks calm through all of it. Certain champions roar. Some rejoice wildly. Sinner often reacts like a man who just successfully renewed his passport online. Meanwhile, across the net, another elite player is mentally reviewing life decisions after getting blasted off the court. And through this entire streak, one detail continues standing out. He is not merely winning, he is redefining standards. 5 straight Masters, 1000 titles. No one had ever done before. Then 30 consecutive Masters 1000 wins, surpassing Djokovic himself. Tennis history books almost needed emergency updates every other week.
Conversations around Jannik Sinner are we going to be having in a few weeks? In 2010, Rafael Nadal won every single big tournament on clay: Monte Carlo, Madrid, Rome, and the French Open. Jannik Sinner, there's a good chance he does that. And when he does it, what do I come on this app and say? Do I say, hey, is Jannik Sinner a top 10 player of all time, top 15 player of all time? What sort of conversations are we going to be having?
At a certain moment, supporters stopped wondering whether Sinner was the world's top player and began asking a far more unsettling question. How long can this level possibly last? Because if this standard holds steady, the ATP Tour faces a serious structural issue. The next generation was meant to compete for control after the Big Three era ended. Instead, Sinner is starting to build a form of dominance that completely unbalances the sport. Every great sporting era eventually produces one figure who turns competition into pure survival for everyone else. Novak Djokovic himself sustained it in tennis for years. Now Sinner is beginning to create that identical environment. The atmosphere where even legends recognize when greatness is unfolding directly in front of them. There is no bitterness in acknowledging excellence at that level. Only respect mixed with the painful awareness that time eventually defeats everyone, even giants. Novak Djokovic spent years surviving challenges from Federer, Nadal, Murray, Wawrinka, and an entire generation desperate to stop him. He understands precisely how difficult dominating tennis is when every opponent treats beating you as career achievement.
Someone described them as LeBron stats. It's basically saying like XYZ is the first person to do whatever, but it's all kind of made up. Like, you know, like first American born in 2002 to beat a Russian player born in whatever, you know what I mean? But this is a real stat. Jannik Sinner sets the all-time Masters 1000 record with 32 straight wins. He just surpassed Novak Djokovic, who used to hold this record with 30 and 31 matches won in a row. But what I haven't seen anybody talk about in the comments is that Roger Federer had the next most with a 29 match winning streak.
Seeing Sinner surpass that barrier likely felt both beautiful and brutal at the same time too. Beautiful since tennis constantly needs fresh greatness. Brutal since records hold fragments of identity for legendary athletes. And now Jannik Sinner holds one of the greatest Masters 1000 streaks tennis has ever seen record. The wildest part is that this story still feels incomplete. Typically, streaks like this arrive with warning signs before collapse. Fatigue emerges. Frustration emerges. Opponents start solving things out. With Sinner, none of this has occurred consistently enough yet. If anything, he keeps evolving. His serve has improved. His defense has sharpened. His shot selection appears smarter each month. Even his composure under pressure has evolved into something frighteningly mature. Early in his career, there were times when matches could drift emotionally. That version of personalities, emotional rivalries, and larger-than-life characters. Then this quiet Italian arrives, looking like he still asks teachers for permission to leave class early, and suddenly he is out here breaking Djokovic records like it is a weekend hobby again. Somewhere, tennis historians are likely staring at spreadsheets in disbelief. Meanwhile, Sinner keeps on winning, and that might be most frightening sentence in sports right now.